Welcome to Inside the Mavs live right here on Kevin Gray Sports. My name is Kevin Gray. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Kevin Gray Sports. Be sure to hit that subscribe button right there for all things Kevin Gray Sports here on YouTube. You can catch me on your home of the Dallas Cowboys and Texas Rangers, 105.3 The Fan. We are getting you ready for game number 2 between the Dallas Mavericks and the Golden State Warriors. Appreciate you joining me right here on Kevin Gray Sports Inside the Mavs Live. Again, you can subscribe to Kevin Gray Sports here on YouTube. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Kevin Gray Sports. You can also become a Gray Area Club member for just a few bucks a month. If you got a super chat and a question you want to get in here, make sure you're hitting that super chat. We'll get your question in here and make sure we get an answer here as we get you ready for game 2 tonight at 8 o'clock. Exclusively on TNT for game 2 of the Western Conference Finals before the Dallas Mavericks head home to games 3 and 4 on Sunday and on Tuesday. Again, you can find me on Twitter at Kevin Gray Sports. If you're in the YouTube chat room, make sure you're smashing that like button over and over again. Get the likes up and get everybody in here as we go inside the Mavs live right here on Kevin Gray Sports. The Mavericks coming off a 25-point beatdown at the hands of Stephen Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, Jordan Poole, Andrew Wiggins, all those guys, including Kevon Looney, all getting into the act in game number 1. A strange game, if you will, if you look at it from both perspectives. The leading rebounder in game 1 was Stephen Curry with 12 rebounds. The Mavericks missed 37 three-point attempts, including 12 of their first 15. Luka Doncic apparently not feeling well after game number 1, which I'll get into more as our conversation goes on with respect to Luka Doncic and his health and what I have found out based on what he and the report was about him being sick after game number 1. But he went 6 of 18 from the field. Him and Jalen Brunson went a combined 12 of 34 from the field for just 34 points in game number 1. Obviously, the Dallas Mavericks allowed guys like Jordan Poole and, more importantly, Andrew Wiggins, who was really good in the first half with 15 points, to really set the tone on the defensive end. Meanwhile, for the Golden State Warriors, you saw a team throw a bunch of junk defenses at Luka Doncic. You saw boxing one. You saw multiple zones. You saw a lot of different defensive looks from the Golden State Warriors in game number 1 that was able to get Luka off his game. Now, obviously, apparently that had something to do with his health a little bit, but also the offensive rhythm was disrupted by what the Golden State Warriors did defensively throughout the course of that game. And then conversely, on the offensive end, the Mavericks were not able to keep up with the movement, not only the player movement, but the ball movement of the Golden State Warriors, which we know they are most known for when it comes to their offense and what they try to do to get teams off their game defensively with the constant movement of Stephen Curry, Klay Thompson, and trying to run through screens, pin downs, flare screens, all the things that the Golden State Warriors are known to do offensively. That was on full display in game number 1. But what you didn't account for if you're the Mavericks was the fact, if you look at the shooting numbers for the Golden State Warriors from the three-point line, they were just 10 of 29 from 3 in game 1. So it wasn't like the Golden State Warriors shot the lights out in terms of the three-point line. But what they did do and how they were effective is if you look at their 2-point numbers, this was a team that you look at their 2-point field goal percentage, they were 36 of 53 for nearly 68%. And a lot of that was in the mid-range. So this team was able to get a lot of mid-range shots and knock down a lot of shots in the mid-range like they did in game number 1. How are they able to do that in game number 2 will obviously be a question going forward as well. Again, this is Inside the Mavs live right here on Kevin Gray Sports. My name is Kevin Gray. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Kevin Gray Sports. Again, be sure to hit that subscribe button right here for Kevin Gray Sports here on YouTube. If you're in our YouTube chat room, make sure you're smashing that like button as well and let us know how you're feeling about game number 2 tonight between the Golden State Warriors and the Dallas Mavericks. Now, as I was mentioning, the Golden State Warriors shot nearly 68% on their 2-point field goals, and they got a lot of those in the mid-range, whether it was Andrew Wiggins, whether it was Jordan Poole being able to get to the basket. A lot of different guys were able to do a lot of different things and putting pressure on the Mavericks defense. Appreciate Cowboy here in our Mavs YouTube chat room. He's one of our Gray Area Club members. Again, you could join the Gray Area Club for just a few bucks a month if you want to and become part of the Gray Area Club community. From Cowboy, the Mavs lacked work from the penetrators. The Mavericks didn't penetrate, didn't get penetration points. Yeah, when you look at what they did in terms of getting into the paint, they took a lot of jump shots. They settled for a lot of jump shots in game number one, which I thought wasn't necessarily the way that you wanted to go. I know that they may have been a little bit tired and obviously trying to expend that energy, getting to the paint. It may have been easier to obviously settle for jump shots, which they did. I like the shots that they got. I like the way that they went about getting those open shots. They simply just didn't knock them down in game number one, which obviously they have to be better at in game two, because I think one of the underrated parts about playing Golden State is not only do you have to get used to the pace at which they play and how they try to speed you up on the offensive end with the defense that they play, and then vice versa on the offensive end with all the ball and player movement that they have, there's a lot of pressure psychologically to feel like you've got to make a bunch of threes against them, because you know how good they are in terms of a team that can knock down open shots from beyond the three-point line. And I think the Mavericks got caught in a little bit of that psychology in game one, where, as I mentioned, 15 of the first 20 shots that they took were from beyond the three-point line. And obviously, they only made 3 of them. That's the kind of psychological game that is underrated when you talk about playing a team like Golden State is. They'll get you out of their game, not just because of all the things that they do offensively and defensively, but the way that they can bend the math based on their abilities to knock down shots from the outside. So I think that, to me, was an underrated aspect of game number one, was that I think the Mavericks felt like they had to keep up with the Golden State Warriors, or try to shoot themselves into the game early on by knocking down a bunch of three-pointers to account for what you know will be runs by the Golden State Warriors and their ability to put points on the board fairly quickly. I think the Mavericks got in a lot of trouble with that, and it didn't necessarily work out for them, especially in the first half. Because if you had told me that Klay Thompson and Stephen Curry were going to go 4 of 14 from the field for just 7 points in the first half, I would have told you I like my chances if I'm the Dallas Mavericks. But then you look at the other guys in the first half. Yeah, Klay and Steph went 4 of 14, but then you allow guys like Andrew Wiggins. He goes 6 of 9 from the field with 15 points in the first half. Obviously, Kevon Looney going 4 of 4 from the field in the first half. He had 8 big points. So you allowed other guys. Jordan Poole, he went 4 of 6 in the first half. He had 9 points. Other guys besides Stephen Curry and Klay Thompson stepped up and played well in the first half offensively, and they did a lot of their damage in the mid-range, which you saw in the series against the Phoenix Suns. That's how Chris Paul, Devin Booker loved to live in the mid-range when it came to their kinds of shots that they were taking. This Inside the Mavs light right here on Kevin Gray Sports. Again, my name is Kevin Gray. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Kevin Gray Sports. But be sure to hit that subscribe button while you're here, and being able to become a Gray Area Club member if you want for a couple bucks a month, just like Cowboy is. He got another comment from Cowboy here. I think they failed at getting the key Golden State players in the paint. Several of the Warriors players with 3 fouls in the first half. Yeah, when you look at the guys that were in foul trouble, when you start looking at some of those numbers in terms of the personal fouls, you had Draymond Green. He had 3 fouls in the first half. You had Kevon Looney. He had a couple of fouls in the first half. Jordan Poole also had 2 fouls in the first half. Klay Thompson had 3 fouls in the first half. So being able to get some of these guys into foul trouble and to do so consistently, I think will have to be the name of the game once again, when you look at the Mavericks and what they're trying to do in terms of putting pressure on Golden State in this game to try and get them out of their own rhythm, because you know that offensively they're going to try and establish a rhythm with the kinds of things that they like to do with all the player and ball movement that they have throughout the course of a ball game. How that changes tonight will tell us a big reason on how the Mavericks are able to perform in game number 2. We were mentioning about Luka Doncic. There was a report from Kevin Harlan of TNT that Luka Doncic had felt ill after game number 1, and he was not feeling well after the game was over with and was up all night feeling sick. I was able to talk to a Mavs source earlier this morning, confirmed that Luka was not feeling well last night after game 1 and was not feeling well. Of course, game 1 was on Wednesday. Thursday, up all night, not feeling well. that report is true based on a source I talked to earlier this morning. So Luka was not feeling well yesterday after game one, up all night, not feeling well. Hopefully he is good to go for tonight. The Mavs source that I did talk to said that he is fine and is ready for game two tonight. So obviously that remains to be seen with him on the floor. And let's see here from Harold Victor right here in our Mavs YouTube chat room. Is Luka playing tonight? Illness rumors concerning me. Yeah, as I was just mentioning, you came in right on time. Luka is good to go tonight and will be just fine going into game two against the Warriors. As I mentioned, confirming the report earlier, talked to a Mavs source who said, yeah, he wasn't feeling well last night after the game. And, of course, the game would be on Wednesday, yesterday being Thursday. And the report was that he was not feeling well and feeling sick. That report is true. But at the same time, is said to be ready to go for game number two tonight. So all signs point toward him being okay going into tonight's game against the Warriors. So however you may feel about that, obviously that's a concern, not just for tonight, but going forward for the rest of the series. Hopefully there isn't something going around for the Mavericks in terms of any kind of potential illness, but it sounds like it's been contained at what's going on right now. Everything is okay with Luka Doncic as far as that's concerned. But hey, it's not something that you obviously want to hear when it comes to this time of the year, and obviously them and being in the playoffs, especially this deep, into the playoffs. So we'll see how that goes. Let's see from Harold Victor here. Jalen Brunson needs to shoot threes. Yeah, especially when he has the opportunities to, because he can make those threes off the dribble. You saw him pass up several opportunities in game one. Some of those off the dribble threes that he can take and make. Didn't necessarily take those in game number one. And I thought passed up some good opportunities to take some good shots and simply did not do so. You look at the overall numbers for him when it came to shooting the ball from the three-point line in game number one, he went 0 of 5. So the 5 that he took, he missed all of them. And that just contributed to how poorly the night was from the three-point line from the Mavericks, as we mentioned. They went 11 of 48 from beyond the arc. Reggie Bullock hit 3 threes. Doncic hit 3. And that was pretty much about it. So other guys are going to have to get involved and, more importantly, knock down shots from the outside to give this Mavericks team confidence that they can be able to stay in ball games. Because what you can't do is you can't allow this team to get out on the break the way that they did. You look at the fast break points in this game in game one, outscored 18-7 on the fast break. A lot of that was due to the amount of missed shots that the Mavericks had, shooting just 36% from the field, allowing the Golden State Warriors to get out on the break and to finish in transition. This is a team that's very good, in finishing in transition. So not surprising at all that the amount of missed shots led to the amount of fast break points that the Golden State Warriors were actually able to have in game number one. Hopefully that's not the case going forward into game number two. So we'll see how that fares out. But yeah, you're right. Jalen Brunson needs to shoot some more threes. And the Mavericks as a team got to be better in just knocking down those shots when they have the opportunity to. 23% is not going to cut it when you are taking on a Golden State Warrior team in this particular series, who we know is as good as they are offensively and defensively. 23% from the three-point line is not going to cut it. Let's see here. We're inside the Mavs Live right here on Kevin Gray Sports. Again, my name is Kevin Gray. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Kevin Gray Sports. Be sure to hit that subscribe button right there, right here on Kevin Gray Sports here on YouTube. Let's see here from Cowboy. What do you think the Mavs did well? I think they took good shots in the first half. They just were not falling. I agree with that 100%. I thought the process in which they got their shots in the first half was good. I would like to have seen them attack the rim a little bit more, but I thought the looks that they had were good. And Jason Kidd will tell you the shots that they got were good open looks, make or miss league, and they missed a bunch of them in game one. They've got to be able to knock down those shots in game number two. But I agree with you. I thought they had a lot of good open looks. They just simply didn't go down. And hopefully that dribble penetration, being able to put pressure on Golden State's defense, will allow them to have that many more wide open opportunities. And you're hoping in game two that they knock those down. Appreciate you smashing that like button right here. If you're in our Mavs YouTube chat room, make sure you're smashing that like button right here on Kevin Gray Sports as we get more and more people into the chat right here inside the Mavs Live right here on Kevin Gray Sports. From Ian Sean Shandy, let's see here. I hope not, but I have a feeling we're gonna get blown out tonight. Oh no, let's not bring that negative energy in. Let's keep the energy positive, man. We want to keep the energy positive when it comes to the Mavericks tonight. What do you think? You think the Mavs or the Warriors will win tonight? That's a tough call. I thought the Mavericks would be able to steal game one on the road. They got to get game two tonight. I know, look, they went down 2-0 to the Phoenix Suns, won that series. I know that they obviously split the first 2 games at home against the Utah Jazz, losing game one, then coming back and winning, game number 2 behind Jalen Brunson's, massive, performance there. This is not the team you want to fall down 2-0 to. It's a little bit different animal with Stephen Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green. This ain't the team you want to go down 2-0 to. It's not to say I said I am Sunshine. I just deleted that. Hey, I understand, but no, I get the sentiment, obviously, because honestly, you look at these playoffs, especially for the Mavericks, in the series against the Suns. Yeah, it went 7 games, but none of the games were close. You're hoping that's not necessarily the case, that not only can you find ways to win games in this series, but hopefully they're a little bit closer when it comes to those things if you're wanting to see a better series in that fashion. But I'm going to take the Mavs tonight. I'm picking the Mavs to win. I think they find a way to get the win on the road, to get a split. Because, look, all you need to do is get a split. All you need is a split on the road to get this thing back to Dallas, tied at 1 game apiece, and then take your chances from there and see what happens. Let's see here from Harold Victor. I think Jason Kidd is amazing in adjustments on a game-to-game basis. The team played poorly in the first half, only 9-point difference. Same thing happened in Game 5 against the Phoenix Suns. Played even worse in the second half. Yeah, that's a lot of solace you could take in, is that the fact that Jason Kidd has made terrific adjustments throughout the course of these playoffs, and you're looking forward to him doing so again in this series. Obviously going up against a guy, Steve Kerr, who's won multiple championships in this league, has had terrific players on those rosters during those championship years. All of those things will need to be able to be in play for Jason Kidd and this team to make the adjustments in order to beat the Golden State Warriors. From VIP Me Europe. Let's see here. All 4 teams in the West and the Eastern Conference Finals are very, very good. Yeah. When you get this deep into the postseason, everybody's good. Everybody can play. There's a reason why you look at specifically Dallas and Boston, 2 of the 3 best records in the NBA during the second half of the year. The 4 teams that are here is no fluke. Stephen Curry, Klay Thompson, those boys, they've been here for years. You look at the Miami Heat, they've been there, done that. Was just in the NBA Finals a couple of years ago in the bubble. Jimmy Butler is a superstar. Boston, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, they blow out the Miami Heat in Game 2. And obviously, we talk about the Mavericks here all the time. All these teams are good. All these teams are really, really good when you get this deep into the postseason. Make sure you're smashing that like button right here on Kevin Gray Sports inside the Mavs Live to get you ready for Mavericks Warriors game number 2 of the Western Conference Finals. How does Luka Doncic and company bounce back to even up this thing at 1 game apiece? Let's see here from I am Ishan Shandi. I'm going to the game tonight. So hopefully we will win with my Mavs fan presence. Chase Center is really beautiful, by the way. That's what I've heard. I heard the Chase Center is beautiful in there. It's not like how it was in Oracle Arena where, really things are on top of you in that building. But I hear the building is absolutely gorgeous out there in San Francisco, California. Wow, Wim, Tim in the building here in our Mavs YouTube chat room. Mavs need to attack the paint tonight. Only 6 shots at the rim in Game 1. We were talking about that a little bit earlier. 15 of their first 20 shots in Game 1 were from beyond the 3-point line. I simply won't cut it, especially when you only make 3 of them. You live by the 3, you die by the 3, and that's what they did in Game 1. Got to find a way to consistently attack the paint more. Jason Kidd and this team talks about it all of the time. Good things happen when we attack the paint, and they have to do that on a much more consistent basis going into game number 2 tonight. Make sure you're smashing that like button while you're in here inside the Mavs Live here on Kevin Gray Sports. From Harold Victor, what's your thoughts on Miami versus Boston? A couple of blowouts so far, just like we've seen throughout the course of these playoffs. Boston, what they weren't able to do in Game 1, they did in Game 2, which was continue to put the pedal to the metal. They were up by 25 at the half. I think it was 70-45 at halftime. So look, man, that's going to be a tight series back and forth. I think both teams are going to give each other's best punch each night, and it was Boston's turn to be able to do so when it comes to beating up on the Miami Heat. The Mavs need to play much more aggressive on the foul line. 48 minutes full power and more rotations from some of the bench players per the file. Yeah, and that's an interesting point because I've been talking about this throughout the course of the day. Is the Mavericks have got to find a way to introduce physicality into this series. I thought they did not do a good job in game one of making Stephen Curry play defense. I thought he had plenty of chances to just hide out on the defensive end, not have to do much work on that end of the floor. And if you're going to beat the Golden State Warriors, one of the things that we've seen throughout the course of Stephen Curry's career with Golden State is if you put him into actions and make him defend, he's not necessarily a great defender. And you want to exploit that even more as he has gotten older in his career. Like I mentioned a little bit earlier, he's 34 years old now. Do some of the same things that you did to Stephen Curry that you did to Chris Paul in the previous series. What was the thing about what the Mavericks did to Chris Paul? And it was wear him down throughout the course of the series. Do the same thing to Stephen Curry. The difference between Curry and Paul is Curry will run around like a jackrabbit on the offensive end, trying to get his shots, with all the screens and all the movement and action that they do there. Make him run ragged on the defensive end as well. Put him into action, make him feel you defensively, and then be able to, or make you feel him offensively, and to put him in the actions to make them, work hard on the defensive end as well. So we'll see about that. Let's see here from Michael Macy. Sorry, just joined and saw above. The question was asked about how is Luka's health tonight. Was he sick game one or sick tonight or both? I mentioned a little bit earlier, was able to confirm with a Mavs source earlier this morning that Luka Doncic was in fact sick and was not feeling well yesterday. A same source also told me, though, that he is fine going into game two tonight. So Kevin Harlan had reported that Luka Doncic was up feeling ill after game number one on Thursday. He is feeling better, according to a source I spoke with, and said that he's going to be just fine going into game number two, just to give you an idea of what's going on with Luka Doncic there. Clay, Poole, and Steph needed to be hunted all game, all through a traffic cones on defense. Yeah, that's what I was talking about. Put those dudes into action, especially Klay Thompson and Stephen Curry. Now, Klay is not nearly as good of a defender as he used to be several years ago when it was him and Kawhi Leonard as probably the two best two-way players in the league. I know Klay Thompson had a nice block shot in the corner on a three-pointer on a closeout. But, yeah, especially Stephen Curry, put those dudes into action and hunt them and make them be felt on the defensive end by the way that you exploit them physically, on the offensive end. So definitely agree with the point there when it comes to putting Klay, Jordan Poole and those guys into actions to try and make the play more defense on that side of the ball, because Stephen Curry should not be able to get to just hide out and camp out and just take breaks on the defensive end for sure. This is Inside the Mavs Live right here on Kevin Gray Sports. Again, my name is Kevin Gray. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Kevin Gray Sports. Again, make sure you're smashing that like button. Subscribe to Kevin Gray Sports here on YouTube, and you can catch you on your home with the Dallas Cowboys and Texas Rangers. 105.3 The Fan. Let's see here. That's a good point about the bench players. I would bring Burke in to get defenders into foul trouble. Who knows? You may see a little bit of him in terms of the offensive firepower that the Mavericks may need to utilize when it comes to them. Let's see. They will go more and more physical from game to game on both sides. Tend to agree with that there. From Harold Victor, Frank needs to play more minutes, hunt down Steph. Assuming you're talking about on the defensive end in that way, because Frank is not going to threaten you offensively at all. But so I'm assuming you're talking about on the defensive end when it comes to that. Again, smash that like button right here, Inside the Mavs right here on Kevin Gray Sports. Mavericks Warriors Western Conference Game 2 preview. How did Luka and the Mavericks bounce back in game number 2 tonight? As we spin this forward to game 2 and what I want to see happen from the Mavericks tonight, there are several things that I want to see differently. And namely, it starts with just making shots. Again, you cannot go 11 of 48 from the three-point line and expect to win a lot of ball games. You missed 37 three-pointers in game one. You shoot 36% overall from the field. You only had in this game, when you look at it, 14 assists on the total of how many baskets made. 31 field goals, man. Yeah, 14 assists on 31 made baskets and shooting at 36%. That's not going to cut it. You got to be able to move the basketball, and more importantly, you got to value the basketball in this game as well. When you look at the Mavericks, they had 13 turnovers they did in game number one. You cannot give the Golden State Warriors free possessions. You've got to close out possessions with defensive rebounding. And more importantly, you cannot allow them to get into any kind of offensive rhythm the way that they were able to do so. And what concerns me most coming out of game one is this. Stephen Curry and Klay Thompson weren't good in the first half, but the other dudes stepped up. And the younger guys who have not necessarily been in this position, Andrew Wiggins, Jordan Poole, and some of these other guys, they now have confidence that they can find a way to be able to help things out for the Warriors offensively when Klay and Steph aren't going well. And now once those two get going, it makes it very difficult to stop them throughout the course of a 7-game series. Even though Stephen Curry's numbers against the Dallas Mavericks this season haven't necessarily been great, you got to be better going up against them in the final remaining games of the series. From Harold Victor, did what he was good in game one. I agree. Spencer did what he was good. He had went 5-11, had 17 points, was 3 of 7 from the three-point line. I thought got into rhythm with some of the three-pointers that he took. He's going to have to be big in game two. You're going to have to need at least 2 or 3 guys to come with Luka Doncic in this game, because I can guarantee you the Golden State Warriors will look to try and overwhelm this team early on in this game and try and put them in a position where they're trying to play catch up. And you simply cannot allow Golden State to get out there and to put the pressure on you early and often in this game. Otherwise, they can shoot you out of the gym really quickly and make things tough on you if you're the Dallas Mavericks. From VIP Me Europe, we haven't seen a franchise in the NBA in a very long time that was so dependent on one player. These have been the Mavs for 4 years. We all expect too much from Luka. Puts the pressure on the others too. Yeah, other guys got to show up. Other guys got to show up and be able to help out Luka Doncic in this game to provide him some more support. We always know his usage rate is going to be through the roof. It will always be that way when it comes to Luka Doncic because of the heliocentric nature in which they run their offense, but other guys have to step up going into tonight's game as well. Let's see here from Harold Victor. Steph cannot out-rebound Dallas. That's inexcusable. There is no reason why Stephen Curry should be the leading rebounder on any team, let alone with the Golden State Warriors and having the 12 rebounds that he did in game number one, which is exactly what he did against the Dallas Mavericks. 12 rebounds is simply inexcusable for him when it comes to leading the Golden State Warriors and the Mavericks as the individual leading rebounder. Because, yeah, look, 10 of those were on the defensive glass. That's inexcusable. I know the Mavericks have been a terrible defensive rebounding team as the season has gone on. Allowing that dude to get 10 defensive rebounds is inexcusable. But again, some of that is knocking down shots. If you can knock down shots, you can alleviate some of that defensive rebounding and more importantly, get your ability to set up your defenses for the Dallas Mavericks in terms of what they're trying to do in terms of creating pressure on the Golden State defensively. Because look, Reggie Bullock, Dorian Finney-Smith, Jalen Brunson, all of these guys are going to take their turns on Stephen Curry. And more importantly, they've got to find a way to slow him down and not allow him to get into actions early, because the earlier that the Golden State Warriors can get into actions, the better they are in terms of moving the basketball and allowing the ball to have the kind of energy. And they don't mind passing up good shots for great shots. That's one of the things that you love about Golden State and watching them play is they will pass up a good shot, make it the extra pass, and to get a great shot. There was a great play that Stephen Curry had on a swing pass to Kevon Looney, rolling to the basket with the over-the-shoulder pass. They're willing to do those things. And if you're the Dallas Mavericks, you've got to account for the speed and the movement that it took in game number one. Let's see, from Chains, wasn't like 28 uncontested threes. Yeah, I can't remember the specific number, but just watching from the naked eye, you could obviously tell that they had a bunch of wide open looks in game number one that the Dallas Mavericks that they just simply couldn't take advantage of. I think they'll get a lot of those same looks again it's going to be incumbent upon them to be able to knock them down consistently throughout the course of a 48-minute ball game. Because if you get that many uncontested threes, you got to be able to knock them down when you have the opportunities to. From Chains as well, if we could have just hit 5 to 7 more, it would have been a different game. Yeah, even if you hit 7 more of those shots, we're talking about, a 21-point swing that allows you to at least be in that game. And now you take your chances on what you could do against the Golden State Warriors. You can't hit 11 3-pointers and win games against Golden State. It just simply can't happen. From Harold Victor, do you think we can become a wing 3-and-D oriented team and not get a big in the offseason? No, you need a big. The Mavericks, they desperately need a big. They've got enough wing defenders with Dorian Finney-Smith and Reggie Bullock. They've got enough guys that can guard on the perimeter. You need a defensive anchor in the middle to be able to solidify things, because one of the things that Utah wishes that they could have had in their series against Dallas was guys that could better defend the perimeter to not allow the breakdowns that made Rudy Gobert have to clean up their messes at the end of every possession, it felt like. And I'm sure Rudy Gobert feels the same way. They wouldn't have that problem, or a guy like Gobert, for example, would not have that problem here in Dallas. Now, there would be questions on how Sean Sweeney may fit, get a chance to fit him within this defensive scheme. I think he would make it work because he's a terrific defensive mind. But you got to get a guy that can, number one, be athletic enough to be able to defend the paint. And if you want to go with a more modern big in terms of a guy that can shoot the ball from the three-point line and also block shots and have a defensive effect in the post and in the present, a guy like Miles Turner. When Miles Turner is healthy, he can shoot from 3. He can block shots. Great weak side and help defender as well. There's a lot of things that a Miles Turner could present to you that would allow you to be much better offensively and defensively at the center position. Right now, you're just not getting any of that. And Dwight Powell, who's pretty much just a placeholder until you get Maxi Kleber into these ball games, really doesn't have much of an effect on the game unless he's doing the rim running that he does with Luka Doncic. Otherwise, you don't have a real post presence and a real center presence, on this team. They need that more so than I do think they need any other 3-and-D guys going into this upcoming offseason and into the summer. But obviously that's going to be a big part of what they need to do to try and improve this team and how they look going into next season. Let's see here. Thoughts on Jeremy Grant? Jeremy Grant, good player. From Chains, I think I'd rather get Mitchell Robinson and spend more on a guard and a wing. Okay, understand the sentiment. Mavs need to rotate more players than only 7. Put them in the fight. I mean, look, you look at the rotation that they had in game number 1. You had Bullock, Dorian, Dwight, Doncic, Brunson. Those are your starting 5. Then Dinwiddie, Kleber, Bertans, Ntilikina. So you ran out 9 guys. You had your starting 5 and then your 4 guys off the bench in Dinwiddie, Kleber, Bertans, and Ntilikina, who saw the most minutes. Obviously, the rest of those guys got garbage time minutes in game number 1. So you had 9 guys, and in fact, you had 6 of those 9 play at least 23 minutes. Spencer Dinwiddie played 23 minutes, in game number 1. Maxi Kleber played 18. And then, of course, Bertans played 13 and Frank Ntilikina played 10. And you can only do that in terms of spot, minutes for him on the defensive end. Let's see. From Chains, the further you get in the playoffs, the smaller the rotation. Yeah, that's always an old adage in the NBA that playoff rotations, their rotations get shorter in the playoffs. But the guys that are available to come in have to be better when you look at overall. I mean, Spencer Dinwiddie, yeah, he had the 17 points. And again, I know plus minus is something that people get a little wonky about when it comes to how they decide to utilize that number. He was a negative 21 in game number 1. So we'll see how that goes. From Play More Trey Burke. I mean, yeah, you could find maybe some offense from Trey Burke, but here's the thing. Trey Burke's a small guard. The Warriors are tall and athletic and long. That would bother me a lot if I was looking at this team and seeing maybe trying to insert Trey Burke. I don't know how I necessarily feel about that because you got Wiggins, you got Thompson, you've got Otto Porter Jr. You've got some guys with some real length on this team that could really bother them. Bother a guy like Trey Burke in that way. And also, obviously, we mentioned, Jordan Poole as well. So some other guys there. Let's see here. Is Zach LaVine leaving the Bulls? There's a report out there that's, is looking more and more likely that he could be returning to them. We'll see how that goes. From Michael Flores, we have to play Boban at least 5 minutes of the game. See what we could do with Luka. 7-4 changes the point of attack at the basket, and that is facts. It wasn't getting any better in that game. Again, I hate to be the bearer of the bad Boban news. You're not going to see Boban in this series. Not at all. If he couldn't get in the game when they were getting blown out, the way that they were, Boban is a very unique player that can only be played in spot minutes. I understand trying to introduce some length and some size in the middle with a guy like Boban. Unfortunately, he's too slow of foot to try and play significant minutes in a series like this. Even if you're trying to get some spot stuff in there, it's not going to happen with Boban. And trust me, I love Boban just as much as the next person. You're not going to see Boban in this series unless something dramatic is happening there. Trey Burke, maybe he is small, but he has the biggest heart with Luke. Yeah, nobody's questioning the toughness and the heart of Trey Burke. Nobody's questioning that. It's just a bad matchup for him. It's just a bad matchup based on his size, what he likes to do and try and get into the basket, and the length of a team like Golden State. It's very difficult to have a guy like Burke playing significant minutes given what the Warriors are athletically and how they would defend him. I wouldn't necessarily think that Trey Burke could be as effective as you might want him to be with the minutes he might play. Let's see here. Michael, but tell me why he couldn't get in the game. It was a blowout. Jason Kidd is killing me. I mean, sorry. Yeah, it is what it is, man. Mavericks got to be winning games by 40 points before you see Boban in these playoffs. And again, the one thing I do think about is last year, and really Rick Carlisle had no choice last year, was they were getting killed so much on the defensive glass by, what the Clippers were doing, that they had really no choice about, hey, Boban, we might need some size to try and spark, some help. Because you remember last year, Boban was the starting center for the Mavericks against the Clippers in Game 7. That's not a great idea if you think that the Mavericks need to have some size. Yeah, that's just not necessarily what you want going into the game. From Harold Victor, who is going to be the X factor for the Dallas Mavericks tonight? That's a great question. I think it's got to be the bench of the Mavericks. We were talking about a little bit earlier. Dinwiddie, Kleber, Bertans, Ntilikina. When you look at their combined numbers, they went 5, 6. They went 6 of 15, 19, 21, 6 of 21 between the four of them. That's not going to cut it. Obviously, Bertans is a guy who's capable of knocking down three-pointers. He went 0 of 4 in all 4 of his attempts. You look at what Ntilikina did, it was 0 of 2. Anything you get from Ntilikina offensively is gravy. His impact is on the defensive end. But still, as I mentioned, going a combined 6 of 21 between those 4 guys, with 5 of those field goals coming from, Spencer Dinwiddie, you got to have more guys step up. I mean, that's a great point. VIP Me Europe. All Mavs players need to be the X factor. I mean, I agree with you. But I would say the X factor would be the Mavs bench. When you look at the bench points between the two teams in this game, it was fairly close. It was 33-37 in terms of being in favor for the Golden State Warriors. So they were +4 in bench points. But at the same time, it didn't feel like that way based on, and a lot of that came obviously from what a guy Spencer Dinwiddie was doing for the Mavericks, having 17 of those 33 bench points for Dallas. So other guys have to step up to be able to help this team out. Wow, and Tim, I see Dorian having a big game tonight. He has been invisible since his big game for against the Suns. And part of that, again, goes back to the amount of minutes that these guys are playing. The guys are tired. They played game number 100 in game 1 on Wednesday. They played a ton of basketball, but more importantly, they've got to be able to knock down shots and do so consistently. Otherwise, you could see him possibly disappear again tonight. For Chains, only change the rotation I can see is trying to play Green. Again, for fast break, can't let the Warriors get that defense set. Green is a great passer and defended Curry good this year. All depends if he can shoot open threes. You said it right there. That's the biggest thing with Josh Green is he can't hit consistently from the outside beyond the three-point line. That limits his minutes and his ability to be on the floor, because what you can't do is you can't shoot yourself out of ball games against the Golden State Warriors. You saw how that happened in game one. This team will punish you for missing baskets. And unfortunately for the Mavericks, they missed a ton of shots, and they were not only able to get on the fast break where the Golden State Warriors outscoring them 18-7, they were able to get into whatever they wanted to offensively. And a lot of that had to do with their ability to not only secure possessions with defensive rebounds, but then have their opportunities out on the break to get easy buckets. Josh Green is not what you want if you're feeling like you don't want them to get out to the break, because he's going to miss a lot of open shots. And there's going to be a lot of opportunities for long rebounds that can allow the Warriors to push it up in transition when it comes to that. What about Jalen Brunson? He must be much more productive. Yeah, Jalen Brunson, another guy that has to be much better in game two. We saw some of the numbers with him when we came to talking about him a little bit earlier. Yeah, 6 of 16. Not going to cut it. Jalen Brunson, we know, has been really good in these playoffs. Was it good in game number one? Usually is able to bounce back when he is able to do so. Make sure you're smashing that like button right here inside the Mavs Live right here on Kevin Gray Sports here on YouTube. My name is Kevin Gray. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Kevin Gray Sports. From Tyson T, I think we need to trap Curry less. Let him try and beat us straight up. Be careful what you wish for, Tyson. I get the strategy and the idea, but man, the last thing I want is Stephen Curry going one-on-one with Jalen Brunson or one-on-one with any of these guards. I know he's 34 years old. I know some of the physical skills have diminished, but my man can still put the ball on a string. And the last thing I want is for him being able to get matched up one-on-one with some of these guys and making these dudes look silly, because he still can be able to do that on occasion. And that's not necessarily what you want him out here embarrassing dudes out on the floor. Let's see here. From Chains, I'd let JB bring the ball down so Luka doesn't have to worry about Wiggins picking him up full court. You can put some of the ball handling responsibilities on Jalen Brunson. But again, you're talking about the length that could bother him in this particular case with the Golden State Warriors. And the adjustment that they can make is, okay, if you're going to put the ball in Brunson's hands, we'll stick Wiggins onto Brunson, trap, make him get the ball out. And then what the Golden State Warriors are really good at is, and you saw it in game one, this isn't a team that switches a lot. This is a team that will fight under screens, fight over the top of screens to stick and guard their man and be able to stick with the guy that they're, defending at that time. The Warriors don't switch a lot, and you saw that in game one. So I think they would be able to feel like they could handle that, and they could do a lot of the different things that they want to defensively in that way. Let's see here. Wow, Tim, any reason why Dwight has had such a bad postseason? Thought this would be a series he would be successful in, but he's another non-factor. Bad matchups. I thought going up against Utah, he'd actually be able to be a little bit of a factor. Didn't work out. Against Phoenix, relative non-factor in that series as well. He has a particular set of skills that if they don't manifest themselves, he's virtually unplayable. Like, he's a great rim runner. He's going to be able to attack the rim and pick and roll and screen and roll situations with Luka Doncic. If that's not working, there's no real effect of a Dwight Powell on the floor. I know he brings, energy, he brings hustle, but a lot of that is rendered useless when he's not rim running and doing the things to attack the rim when it comes to him and Luka Doncic to pick and roll. Otherwise, there's not much you really can do with Dwight Powell on the floor, which is why you've seen Maxi Kleber get into these games so early, because Dwight Powell's pretty much a placeholder. At least with Maxi Kleber, you can go 5 out with his ability to knock down shots from the outside. He's a versatile defender, can guard multiple positions on the floor, and he can give you a lot more value versus what Dwight Powell does on the defensive and offensive end. So unfortunately for Powell, it's not necessarily, what it is when it comes to his ability on the floor. From El Maverick here, Mavs are 8-3 after starting a round down 0-1. I mean, you're hoping that comes into play. Obviously, for some reason, they've been spotting teams game one so far in these playoffs. Game one, against Utah at home, loss. Game 1 on the road against Phoenix, loss. Game 1 on the road against Golden State, loss. We know how the first 2 series ended. Maybe the Mavericks could find a way to pull out some of that magic once again going into the rest of this series. For Michael Flores, y'all know Chris wants to play against the Warriors as his old team. Do you give him minutes, or is he another cheerleader? My man Marcus Chris is a cheerleader, point blank. Let's see here. Okay, all right. So yeah, look, that is what it is, man. When it comes to Dwight Powell, unfortunately, Marquise Chris not gonna see much time either. But hey, the Mavericks, they can make some adjustments. I think that's the biggest thing going into game 2. The adjustments that they can make. Number 1, get more physical with Stephen Curry and Klay Thompson. Create less airspace for those guys to get off their shots. Introduce some physicality into this series. Number 2, make shots. Be able to be more consistent from outside on the three-point line and make shots. If you can do that, you can find yourself staying in this game. 2, or number 3, you cannot allow this team in the Warriors to get out on the fast break. They will punish you when it comes to their ability to finish out in transition. They are still extremely capable of doing that. And you can't allow, number 4, you can't allow Wiggins, Jordan Poole to feel like they can be comfortable in attacking you on the defensive end. Because too many times Jordan Poole was able to utilize footwork, sometimes too good because he was out here traveling. But he could use his footwork to be able to get to the basket. Andrew Wiggins can get to a spot in the mid-range. Those guys were way too comfortable in game number 1. You got to introduce some pressure to them and make them make tougher shots than what they did in game number 1. And more importantly, you got to be able to close out defensive possessions as well with defensive rebound. You got out-rebounded by 15-16 in game 1. That can't happen. Stephen Curry cannot lead your team or lead the game as a rebounder. Simply inexcusable there. From Harold Victor, Mavs 110, Warriors 100. Let's go. All right, let's start getting some predictions in here. As Harold has kicked off our predictions right here inside the Mavs Live, Mavericks Warriors Western Conference Game 2 preview. How does Luka Doncic and company bounce back going into game number 2 tonight? Harold says 110-100 Mavericks in game number 2. That's a bold prediction. I think a lot of people are feeling like the Mavericks will bounce back tonight and be able to even up the series at 1 game apiece. If so, then that will be huge for them, bringing this series back to Dallas with an opportunity to be able to have this tie at 1-1, and then you take your chances going forward for the rest of this series. So look, that's what it's going to be going into game number 2 tonight. But Harold's got the Mavericks winning 110-100. Make sure you're smashing that like button right here inside the Mavs Live right here on Kevin Gray Sports. Again, my name is Kevin Gray, Mavericks Insider for 105 The Fan. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Kevin Gray Sports. You become a Gray Area Club member for just a few bucks a month. Like my man Q Dog, who's jumped in here right on time in the chat as always. Q Dog is one of our Gray Area Club members. You can subscribe for just a few bucks a month to become a member right here on Kevin Gray Sports. From Q Dog, I think Luka, JB, and Spencer are going to drive hard into their bodies and make the refs make a decision. Mavs win 115-102, so a 13-point victory. So I got a 10-point victory from Harold. I got a 13-point victory from Q Dog. Yeah, make these referees make some calls by forcing the issue and getting to the basket and putting that pressure on Golden State, to be able to have to defend you. And more importantly, we were talking about a little bit earlier, make Stephen Curry defend. Make Stephen Curry get into these actions. Make him participate, Jason Kidd, like as he likes to say, on the defensive end. And make sure that you're putting pressure on him to have to force himself to expend more energy, not just on the offensive end, but also on the defensive end as well. For Wild Win Tim, Mavs 106, Warriors 98. This isn't one of those unbeatable Warrior teams. We should feel confident. There we go. For Michael Flores, so we need a center. Chris and Boban are cheerleaders. Do you sign and trade for DeAndre Ayton with Jalen Brunson? If we can't sign Jalen Brunson, that's tough. I do think they bring back Jalen Brunson. I think they're motivated to bring back Brunson because of how valuable he has proven himself to be for this team throughout the course of these playoffs, and his development has been spectacular for the Dallas Mavericks. It would be difficult for me to see him being part of any kind of sign and trade. I think they want to keep him and find a way to move with him going forward. They still need a big man, though, to be able to help out on the defensive end. Let's see here. Harold says, Draymond out here, Boston, around the referees. Pathetic. Hey, here's the underrated part about Stephen Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green. They've been together for 10 years. They know how to work these referees. They know how to talk and chirp and get what they want. It's just part of the game. And if you know how to play it well, you can use it to your advantage. Let's see. From Barb's here in our Mavs YouTube chat room. Mavs will try something. They have to. They said, I predict that this game will be close. I can't put a score on it, though. Okay. I understand that. Look, you're hoping that whether it's by a close game or by blowout, the Mavericks find a way to win, because by hook or by crook, you've got to get this thing, to me, back to Dallas, at least tie 1-1. And if you can do that, you're going to set yourself up to protect home court. Remember, the Mavericks are on a 5-game home winning streak in these playoffs currently right now. They've been protecting home extremely well, and they should feel confident in their ability to do that, especially the way that they were able to blow out the Phoenix Suns in each of their 3 home games. In the last series, you feel good about their chances to be able to win both games at home, knowing how well they played at home throughout the course of this postseason. If you can get it tied at 1-1, you can do some real damage in Dallas if you feel like the Mavericks can continue to keep up their winning ways at the American Airlines Center. But you got to get game 2. You got to get game 2. This isn't the Jazz. This isn't the Suns. We're talking about a team, at least for 3 guys, who have won 3 NBA championships. And we know how good they've been in these pressure situations when it comes to the Golden State Warriors, Stephen Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green. From Harold, is Miles Turner injured? Should be healthy now. He was dealing with a foot injury during the course of the season, which a lot of people, felt like really hampered his trade value, because he could have been a guy that could have been on the trading block, but that foot injury didn't really have him available on the market all that much. From El Maverick here, 105-99 Mavs win. I hope we keep the Warriors under 100, but it's only happened once in their postseason. If you hold the Golden State Warriors to under 100 points, you put together a pretty darn good defensive effort. We know how many times that the Mavericks were able to hold the Suns under to 100 points, under 90 points. Like, they were able to do some real damage against them defensively. It's hard to keep this good of a team down in terms of Golden State Warriors under 100. But if you can keep them close to 100, below that, you're going to give yourself a chance to win a lot of ball games, especially if you feel like the positive regression of the Mavericks shooting will get better as this series goes on. And you're hoping that's the case, obviously, going into game number 2 tonight, because if you can, you're going to give yourself a good chance to win going forward for the rest of the series, obviously. So that's something that you can look for, as well as, can the Mavericks not only be much better defensively, but give themselves and reward themselves by being able to knock down shots on the offensive end, because we know how much their offensive energy is predicated on the way that they play defense. And if they can do that, they'll be okay. Make sure you smash that like button right here on Kevin Gray Sports. Got about another 5 minutes with you before we get out of here today, right here on Inside the Mavs Live here on Kevin Gray Sports. Again, my name is Kevin Gray. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Kevin Gray Sports. Be sure to hit that subscribe button right there for all this Kevin Gray Sports here on YouTube, and you can catch you on your home of the Dallas Cowboys and Texas Rangers, 105.3 The Fan. I'm predicting a Mavericks win tonight. I know I did so in game 1. It didn't make me look too smart, but I think tonight they'll be able to do so. And more importantly, they got to do it. If they don't, it's going to be tough sledding for the rest of this series, especially knowing how good Golden State is when it comes to getting to that championship type situation. I know they blew the 3-1 series lead against the Cleveland Cavaliers several years ago. I understand that. But when they get into this position, more times than not, they have a chance to put their foot on the throat of their opponent during the course of a 7-game series. If you're the Mavericks, a young team, playoff-wise, not wanting to get into that situation, you got to find a way to win tonight. Harold says, one bad game from Luka and the national media is having a field day. That's why you got to stick with me. and all your trusted Mavs insiders and people, so that you can filter out all that negative national media stuff when it comes to Luka and this team, because we're going to give you the real. I'm going to give you the real right here on Kevin Gray Sports here on YouTube when it comes to Luka Doncic, the Dallas Mavericks, and everything that they've got going on there, because the media, the national media, likes to be a little bit fickle when it comes to what they feel about Luka Doncic from time to time, depending on the kind of games that he puts up during the postseason, or just in general, by the way. My man Ruben, what's up, man? Here in our Mavs YouTube chat room. If we can win in the Bay early, we can win this series, Kevin. Hey, light the confidence, man. That starts tonight, though, obviously. If you win a game on the road against the Golden State Warriors, you're going to give yourself a good chance to win the series. But, hey, against a team like this, against the Warriors, you probably have to win twice on the road. So I know they only had to win the one game against the Phoenix Suns, and that was the most important one in Game 7. But if you're going to be a team that is able to win deep into the postseason, you've got to be able to probably win at least 2 games on the road. But obviously, we'll see about that when it comes to the Mavericks and what they've got going on there. So, but I like the confidence, though, as far as them winning the series possibly going forward if they are able to win tonight. So, look, game number 2 is tonight at 8 p.m. on TNT, the Western Conference Finals exclusively on TNT. Can the Mavericks find a way to bounce back in game 2 after a disappointing loss in game 1? They have proven throughout the course of this postseason that they are more than capable of doing so. They're going to have to do so again tonight to be able to get themselves back into this series. If they go down 0-2, it's going to be tough sledding for this team to get back into this series. They can do it, obviously. They've proven to do it, but this is a different animal than Utah. And then, obviously, when they went down 0-2 to the Phoenix Suns, you don't want to do that against a guy in Stephen Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, who've been there, done that, and know what it means to put the pedal to the metal once they do go up 2-0 in a series. That's not what you want, but we'll see how that plays out. A lot of basketball still have to be played in this series, and we'll see how it goes. We're going to get out of here for today. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Kevin Gray Sports. Again, subscribe to Kevin Gray Sports here on YouTube. You become a member, a Gray Area Club member for just a few bucks a month, and make sure that you subscribe to subscribe to Kevin Gray Sports here on YouTube. And again, you can catch me all over social media on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Kevin Gray Sports. From Tomas, Luka, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, Luka was not feeling well after game number 1. Was able to confirm that report this morning when it came to Luka Doncic and how he was feeling. Yes, he was not feeling well after game 1. He said to be good to go, though, going into game number 2 tonight. So we'll see how he looks there. Got me running 33. Shots will fall tonight. Let's hope so. Let's hope so for the Dallas Mavericks. But I'm going to get out of here for today. Enjoy game 2 tonight. I'll be back on Monday. Get you caught up on Inside the Mavs Live with games, obviously 2 and 3, with game 3 being on Sunday. I'll have some stuff throughout the course of the weekend. Again, follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Kevin Gray Sports. Subscribe to Kevin Gray Sports here on YouTube. And catch me all over the place where you can catch Mavs coverage. I'll talk to you later. Peace.